Scott Laird, Ted Clayton from A Rude Awakening International for a special report. Guess who's back home? Nehemia and Lynell Gordon. Boy, are we glad you guys are safe. Welcome back to the US of A.
Thank you. It's in some ways it's really good to be back. In other ways, it's sort of painful that we left people behind. It is difficult. We were in Israel for a little over 2 months. Lynell was actually there taking a Hebrew class at Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the Ulpan. And, I had come over, was doing some research over there, and wake up Saturday morning, what's now October 7th, now being called in Israel Shabbat HaShchorah, the Black Sabbath. Wake up to sirens in Jerusalem, and Lynell tells me the sirens, and I'm like, yeah, they kind of like pick at us all the time. And
it's not the first time we've had sirens.
Then we start to hear explosions, and I'm like, okay, they're actually hitting. So we go outside, and we see right above us, we see this puff of smoke, which we see like a trail in the sky of one of the interceptors and a puff of smoke, and realize this was knocked out right above us by an Iron Dome interceptor. So we better figure out, okay, I've had this apartment for over 20 years, and I know there's a bomb shelter 10 feet from my door. I've never been down there, never walked down those stairs into the bomb shelter. So we walk down, and we end up going several times to the bomb shelter on Shabbat, and then again on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. We
became quite familiar. We became so familiar with the bomb shelter that Nehemia kept, he could put a charger down there. We got water down there. People cleaned it out. It became a very clean place.
We met a lot of neighbors that I've never met before. It's kind of, interesting. Like, you live in a large building with, dozens of apartments, and there's all kinds of people who maybe you'll see in the hallway. There's a lady, I know the name of her dog, but I don't know her name.
Cute little Frenchie.
Yeah, cute little French bulldog. No idea what her name is. So we started meeting all kinds of people that I had seen, or some of them I'd never even seen before. And we're hearing all these explosions every time we go down to the bomb shelter. Well, we were planning on leaving anyway this week, right? We'd been in Israel for about 2 months, but we had bought our ticket to leave, 10 months ago or something like that, right? We had a round trip. We were on the road for 4 months doing research in Europe and then over in Israel. And we had our ticket for a long time, and we get an email from American Airlines. We've ceased operations. Good luck. And so then we heard from a friend that he had gotten out of Israel through Aqaba, which is, Israel's most southern city is called Eilat, and the neighboring Jordanian city is Aqaba, and there's a border crossing there. And I had heard that the border to Jordan was closed. So when I heard from this person he got out, I went immediately and bought a ticket. And the earliest ticket I was able to get was for this week, Monday, October 16th. And yeah, actually, as we're recording this, I said, all right, we'll have Shabbat with the family. The last time I'll see my mother in a long time. Last time I'll see my sisters and, many of my nephews and nieces. And Thursday, last Thursday, Lynell went down with 2 of my sisters who are in the field of optometry. She went down to help the survivors who have been, a lot of them have been brought to the Dead Sea area.
The people that when they came across the border in Gaza, when Hamas came across the border, these are the people that they killed, and these are the children and the women, and the people that were there where I went were the survivors of this attack. So that's what happened, is they left without their glasses, without anything. They left with their pajamas on their back. And many of these people needed those types of things. They didn't have their glasses. They couldn't see. And so
like basic things you take for granted that you just have when there's a sudden attack and you wake up and you run into a bomb shelter and you just barely survive. You don't have those. Lynell did an interview that we posted on my TikTok channel with this woman who she had a lock on her bomb shelter, and the terrorists tried to blow open the door with an RPG, and it didn't explode. So when they came out, finally, after many hours, the Israeli army came and said, okay, you can come out. We're going to take you out of here. There was an unexploded fired RPG in her house.
RPG is
rocket propelled grenade. And so they're like, look, you got to go out now. It could explode at any second. So they left without anything. So Lynell had gone down that day, Thursday, to help those people with my two sisters, who are, one of them's an optometrist, the other is a professor of optometry. And she comes back, and shortly before she came back, or maybe around the time she came back, I get a phone call.
after I got there.
Yeah, so I get a phone call, and I talk to the person on the phone, and she says, if you're planning on leaving Israel, you need to leave tomorrow morning, or you may not get out for months. And she said, if you never believe anything I said or took anything I ever said seriously, take this seriously. And what that means in Israeli culture is she knows someone who knows someone who knows something, who has some intelligence information. And I said, why do I have to go now? I wanted to spend Shabbat with my mother and the rest of the family. And she said, I can't tell you, I wasn't even supposed to tell you this, and I can't tell you anything more. So I get off the phone and I say to Lynell, we have to go.
I said to Nehemia, I know we have to pack. I get it, sweetheart. He's like, no, we have to leave now. And Nehemia is not easy to rattle. Like, we went on a road that had, and we were driving, and he noticed that the road underneath had been washed away, and we were driving on
asphalt on a cliff, and there was nothing under the asphalt.
And so he was a little nervous there, and he's like, we have to turn around. This is dangerous. But I mean, Nehemia is very nonchalant. He's very even-tempered. He's very, he doesn't get excited, and he doesn't get upset. He gets excited about God, but he doesn't get upset easily.
And so we threw all of our stuff together. And I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever been so afraid in my life as when I heard what this person on the phone was saying. So we get our stuff together. We start driving.
So the first thing I think is I will get a flight out of Tel Aviv. We will go camp out in the airport. I will find a place for us on an airline somewhere. We will find a way out.
I remember American Airlines had canceled our flight. We had bought a flight out of Aqaba for Monday, and we were going to drive down there Sunday, cross the border, spend the night in Aqaba, and then fly out. That was the plan. But now we're leaving Thursday night, and Lynell says, let's fly out of Tel Aviv.
It's an hour it's less than an hour's drive to Tel Aviv. It's a 5-hour drive in the middle of the night, past the Arab areas, past the areas that have people that really don't love us.
Well, and it's not just that they're Arab. They're ruled by the Palestinian Authority, which is a terrorist organization.
Right. Now, tell me a little bit about, now I understand that you guys are going to the airport, but now you had a real interesting story about El Al once you get toward there.
So we had before we bought the ticket out of Jordan for Monday, we had been on the phone for hours waiting for El Al to try to talk to somebody to get a flight out of Tel Aviv, out of Ben Gurion Airport. Nobody ever answered. So we're now driving from Jerusalem to Ben Gurion Airport, and Lynell's on the phone, and it's just the music. Nobody's answering. And I say, well, why don't you call them in New York? So she calls the number in New York.
Now, I want to be clear because Nehemia doesn't know this yet. The number in New York, Nehemia, when I went back to look at that number, the number in New York that I got on Google, or I clicked on it, it wasn't El Al.
Oh.
It was a travel agent.
Okay.
And so I just want to be real clear. It wasn't El Al that did this. It was a travel agent. Tell them what he did.
So they said, and we're like, it's an hour drive to the airport approximately. And the whole time they're looking, okay, what about this? What about that?
I want to go anywhere. I don't care.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, you want to go, we can get you to Ethiopia. I mean, like, really. And finally they say, okay, we have a flight tomorrow morning. What was it?
Washington.
And it goes through 2 other places, through Switzerland or someplace like that.
Right.
And it was $26,000 and 2 seats, and one of them was standby. And at like 10 or 11 a.m. the next morning. And I said, okay, Lynell said,
I said, it doesn't matter how much it cost. Even I don't care, but they're not confirmed seats. There's no way.
So you could wait there for 12 hours and you don't have a flight.
Yeah.
Or even worse,
don't care.
Or even worse, one of you would have a flight and the other one wouldn't.
No, we wouldn't do that. That would not happen.
But I mean, theoretically, that's what they said to you, though, is one would be standby and one would be able to go.
Exactly. We're like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So we decided we were going to go to a lot. And I had been told by the person who called me earlier, when you go to a lot, there's two ways to go. You can go through Beersheba on Road 6, or you can go through the Arava Valley in the Dead Sea.
This is the people that go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So she said, do not go through Beersheba because there could be terrorists on the road and there could be rockets that would hit you. Go via the Dead Sea in the Arava Valley. So that means we're now driving back to Jerusalem another hour and then taking a right and going down to a lot. So we get to a lot around, I want to say 3 a.m. And so we have a rental car. And I had called the rental car place the day before and said, look, I've got to fly out of Aqaba because of the war. Can I return the car in a lot? Normally you can't do that. If you rent the car from the airport in Ben Gurion in Tel Aviv, you got to return it in Ben Gurion, Tel Aviv.
Yeah. They
said, okay, under the circumstances, we won't charge you anything. You can leave it there. But you can only leave it there when it's open. And it's not open all day. It closes, I don't know.
11 a.m.?
Well, on Friday, yeah, it closes at 11 a.m. Yeah. So it was only open from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Friday when we're driving Thursday night in the middle of the night. And we have to wait for 8 a.m. for the rental car place to be open. So we go check out the rental place. There's no way we can leave the car. We go to the border. We check that out. We end up spending most of the night in the parking lot of the border crossing. And look, we've been traveling for 4 months. So I know Lynell gave away most of her stuff, but
he has equipment.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of, recording equipment and, I have a microscope to look at manuscripts, all kinds of research, like electronic research equipment and podcasting equipment. And so I've got a lot of stuff. So what ends up happening around 7:30 in the morning, I drop Lynell off at the border crossing. I then drive the car, wait for them to open up the car rental place, return it, and then I take a taxi back to the border and we start crossing.